Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys like the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward. What's up guys, this is Altcoin Sherpa. Today I'm going to be talking about overall flows, vesting, circulating supply, FDV. It's going to be like an educational video. I don't really know how long it's going to be, but hopefully you get something out of it. So let's just get to it. I wanted to talk about how projects are funded and, generally speaking, how token emissions happen and how they work. So when a project first comes onto the market, they raise a lot of money from venture capitalists, angel investors, whoever. And what happens is that investors will give a project money in exchange, this is generally speaking, in exchange for future tokens. And this is called a SAFT. And the investors will receive tokens with different what's called vesting schedules. The vesting schedule means the rate at which tokens are unlocked. So what does that mean for different projects? It means that when you're looking at different coins to trade and which coins to overall invest in, you have to really think about which coins have investor unlocks, because you have to remember that when VCs invest in these projects, they oftentimes get the project for very, very low prices. And when the project goes live on an exchange, there are obviously willing buyers at that point, and the venture capitalists can oftentimes exit their positions and slowly sell. And what happens is that retail investors don't really understand what vesting or how tokenomics generally work. So investors are buying the dip when they have really no idea what the overall vesting and what the schedule of emissions is like. And what happens is that venture capitalists, even when you see a chart like this, you might see a coin like Genopets go down to like $8, but like VCs still got it for like sub $1 or something like that. Like they're still up large multiples, so they're going to keep on selling their tokens. And at that point, you're just a retail investor. You have no idea. You're thinking you're buying the dip, but in reality, the VC is still up a lot of money, and they're still going to be selling a lot of their tokens. So every different type of project has different vesting schedules. They have different token emissions, and every project is different. Now, I think it's really important to take a look at what type of projects to invest in and the overall vesting schedules, and it's really going to affect how long you should hold and invest in a token or a project. So let's just take a look. So Bitcoin, obviously there's like a set max supply of Bitcoin that's ever going to be mined, and you can see that there's 21 million Bitcoin total. This is how much Bitcoin is going to be mined in total. That's like the total max amount. And you can see for the circulating supply, 19 million are out. Therefore, 93% of all Bitcoin that's ever been mined in existence is already out on the market. That's a good thing. That means that there's not going to be a lot of Bitcoin still to come onto the market. And that means that the overall supply is mostly out on the market. And what does that mean for investors? It means that there's not going to be a lot of inside sellers. Not that that really works for Bitcoin as much like other coins, but it means that what you're buying on the market is generally reflected of the true valuation. So this is like an example of a coin where you can happily buy it and hold it for a long time. Now, I'm going to show you several different charts and what happens actually with different vesting schedules and how the overall supply affects the chart. So let's take a look at SRM. This is an old coin infamously tied with FTX. This is called Serum. And I was actually surprised I could actually find the chart on this. This type of price action was very, very common for FTX and Alameda coins. And there's several reasons for this. You see that price, went from like $2 all the way back down, and then it had a really strong move all the way up. And this had this type of price action for a lot of reasons. Like you see this type of price action where it goes all the way up and then it goes all the way back down. It went, it peaked at $13 and now it's currently at 6 cents. So obviously a lot of that is due to FTX collapsing itself, but a lot of these types of charts had similar charts as well. And why is that? You saw the price really went high, but that was because of the overall vesting schedule for these types of tokens. The vesting schedule for SRM was such, I believe they had like a 7-year vest or something like that off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly. That means it takes 7 years for all the tokens to get unlocked from investors and for those to come onto the market. And what happens when you have such a low, we call it float. Float means the total available tokens that can be bought or sold onto the market at any given time. The overall float of SRM was very low. So what that means is that price was able to really get increased. I can't remember what the total fully diluted valuation of this was, but it was in the multiples of billions. And it was able to reach these high prices because there were no investors selling the tokens. The investors were locked up and they can't sell their tokens. So that therefore you see price going very high. But once investors were allowed to start selling the tokens, that's when you see charts like this. And a lot of the old FTX tokens, a lot of the old FTX coins, Alameda coins, Solana coins really were infamous for this type of price action, where it started to go very strongly initially, and then it just goes like this. And this was very common, and generally speaking, these types of coins did have really strong potential to moon early on, and that was, again, because there wasn't much supply on the market. It was very easy to move the market, and once investors started to receive their unlocks, that's when everything started to die. And obviously, as I said, SRM may be a bad example because it's closely tied with FTX. But let's take a look at another Solana coin. This is Ari. Very similar type of price action, right? Where you see it go very strongly, peaked at $25. But then as investors start to get their unlocks, remember their unlocks means their tokens after waiting X amount of time, the token starts to dump really hard. Now, vesting schedules can really differ and really be dependent on the type of project. A lot of very serious projects will have vesting schedules where investors can't sell or don't receive any tokens for up to 1 year initially. So investors have to, they invest in the project and then they wait 1 year before the token starts to unlock. Obviously, this can be dependent and changed on project to project, but once you start seeing that year-long mark, that's when everything starts to really, decline. Now, these aren't really complete charts either. There were a lot of charts on the old FTX exchange, but, this will have to do. But you really just start to see a lot of, coins look kind of like this, where once investors start to really get their tokens, they really like to start selling. Another example of this chart would be Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity launched on Binance Launchpad back in 2020. Really strong moves, all the way back at 70 cents, and it went all the way up to $170. Absolutely ridiculous run. This one minted a lot of millionaires. But what happens to the token when investors start to receive their tokens? This was obviously the market top here, November 21. But remember, investors locked for a year. They launched on November 20th. Investors start to get their tokens maybe a year later, and then the demolishment starts. If you're a venture capitalist, you bought Axie Infinity, call it at, I don't even know what the seed price was, call it 10 cents, and it's at $100. A lot of these guys are just going to relentlessly sell. And that's what actually what happened. It was this chart just got absolutely demolished and smashed. It was able to run up very hard initially because there wasn't any investor tokens. Remember, 1 year lock. Again, I don't know what the actual investing was for this token itself, but generally speaking, it's a 1 year lock. But when you see prices like this and when you see coins go up like this, it's very inflated. It's not reflective of the true value. Because the true value is really when all the tokens are out on the market, like I said before. That's when you actually get to see what a project is actually worth. We call that the FDV, the fully diluted valuation. Fully diluted market cap on a coin is the overall total supply times the price. So, $34 here times 100 million INJ, that gets you this $3.4 billion number right here. So, most of these projects are going to be heavily inflated. They're going to have heavy, strong valuations for like something like Axie Infinity, but it's highly inflated, as I said. It's not realistic and it's not real because the investors don't have the tokens. So, we saw this chart get absolutely smashed. Now it's down to $8 after peaking at, 160. Let's take a look at XS, Axie Infinity. So you can see still circulating supply, like there's still investor tokens still to be sold out on the market. Valuation obviously came way down. But if you look at the overall total market cap of this thing, so it peaked at $10 billion. Does that like sound realistic? Probably not. And now it's closer to like a billion, or I'm sorry, 2 billion. But as I said, once investors start to get unlocks of their tokens, that's when the real valuations start to come to light. So this is an example of Axie Infinity. I showed you some of the old FTX tokens. Let's take a look briefly at meme tokens. Why are meme tokens able to moon so fucking hard? The reason why they're able to moon so fucking hard, A, is because memes attract such degenerate energy that no other coin can really match. There's no legit project that can ever replicate something like Pepe or Bonk or Dogecoin. Those gains were absolutely ridiculous. And it's because a lot of gamblers come out, but it's also in part because a lot of these memes also have full supply on the market from the get-go, meaning that there's no insiders waiting to dump the tokens overall. They have memes are very famous for literally just having mass, like the entire supply being out on the market, and then there's no like token vesting, there's no token emissions, there's nothing where it's like the other charts where it goes all the way up and then like investors start to sell and then you see the slow grind down. Memes, generally speaking, will either go one of two ways. They'll either just like do this where they just chop and then they'll go vertical, or they'll just like straight up die. There's no in between. Excuse me. Get some water. So anyways, one reason why memes are so strong, though, in general, is because they don't have these insider investors. They don't have venture capitalists, a lot of them. They are all the supply, or large amount of the supply is out on the market, and that allows it to go vertically because there's no sell pressure later on. There's no insiders in that regard. And you can see that with Bonk, too. Bonk, like, it did absolutely crazy numbers where, made several multiples. And obviously now it's going down, but regardless, memes are able to do this type of price action because, in part, they don't have insider sellers. Okay, so how does that relate to today? How does it relate to current coins? It relates to current coins because if you think about some of the coins that have done really well the last several months, this is one called Celestia. Everybody knows it. It went from $2 and it peaked at like 15 or so. And this is a good coin because it It's a good coin because, as I said before, there's no investor sell pressure for a long time. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the Celestia schedule is, but I believe that investors probably are locked for a year or so. So, because there's no investors selling their tokens, price can do this huge, parabolic move where price just goes up and there's no sell pressure, and it's just really a small percentage of the tokens are out on the market. Now, that makes Celestia a great vehicle to trade, but a poor investment later on. Remember, what happens after a year, come November 24th or November of 2024, where investors are up, large amounts of money. Like they got in very low. I don't know what they got in at. 50 cents, 10 cents, who the fuck knows? But Celestia investors, if say you bought Celestia at 50 cents and now Celestia's up at $50, of course you're going to start selling your token, right? You're going to start to have some of your realized gain. What happens in that case? We're going to take a look at those old charts again, or we're going to remember them, where they just go up, and then once investors start to get the tokens, that's when you see a large decline of the token overall. So as I said, these make great vehicles to trade, very poor long-term investments though. If you actually want something long-term investment, that's when it's better to look for coins like Aave. Aave used to be under the ticker LEND, and why LEND is a good vehicle for long-term investment is because of the circulating supply being mostly out. Let's take a look. So Aave, you can see total supply, max supply, or circulating supply, I'm sorry, it's very close to the overall total supply. So, that's generally speaking it's pretty good to see this type of activity, because it shows that this price, this fully diluted valuation, 1.6 bill, is more reflective of what the real market believes it to be, because many of the tokens are out. So, I'm not saying buy Aave. I'm just saying that you want to look for coins. If you want to long-term hold coins, you want coins that have a lot of the investor sell pressure already done. Injective is another good one, where like the total supply and the circulating supply and the total supply are pretty close. Again, you want these numbers to be close if it's a long-term investment, because you know that there's not going to be a VC that's up 100x on his money. He's going to start selling the token, and therefore it's going to go down quite a bit. So these are some things to consider in terms of overall trading vehicles and also just long-term investments. I know a lot of people in crypto like to just buy and hold if you're not in the market consistently, but I think you really need to think about what type of tokens you're doing that with, and what type of tokens you're going to trade with instead. Again, Celestia, great token to overall trade from now until a year. After that, I'm not going to hold this thing at all, because it's going to just dump to shit. Same thing with say, incredible gains, launched in August of 23, and was at 10 cents, and now it's at a buck. So or topped at near $1. So obviously absolutely huge gains to be had, but once investors start to get their tokens, that's when it's really a scary type of result. Now, again, finding tokenomics can be difficult, but I do believe it's necessary if you do want long-term hold something. So definitely research that, and there's a lot of other good content on fully diluted value, investing, circulating supply, all this type of stuff. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for the support. I might do more of these videos. We'll see. Thanks a lot.